Hey guys, sorry, but I'm having lunch, so I'm gonna be a little bit slower this time. Um, so this bill is about authorizing airstrikes on members of ISIS's kill list, and it brings up the usual question. Always comes up with like airstrikes, right? Like, does the president have unilateral power over the issue, or should Congress have oversight? The answer is that it's complicated. So under Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, the president is the commander-in-chief, and as such, he unilaterally gets to decide control of the military. Like, the founding fathers were pretty clear, like, they didn't want military strategy to be determined by Congress because Congress is slow. But then again, at the time in which our founding fathers wrote the Constitution, there was no technology like we have today where we really are not even deploying soldiers. That's the interesting part of it. And this is why Obama gets away with it, is because if you're using a drone strike, you're not sending in troops. So Congress be like, that's just a military operation. That's why you want to look at the War Powers Resolution. It comes up a lot. It was passed by Congress to basically say that the commander-in-chief is sending like the military, like armed citizenry, when the actual service of the United States. It counts as war. Congress has some power over its regulation, and like they just need to basically notify Congress that he sent in troops. But the distinction is, in the case of an airstrike, you're not really sending in troops, and if you're using a drone, you're not even sending in people. So that's why Obama gets away with it, even from a constitutional perspective, because he's not even violating the War Powers Resolution, because he's not sending in people. He's sending in a drone to kill those, to kill potential terrorists, right? So the issue is complicated, especially because the bill has the weirdest, like, kind of justification, like seeing that the action is illegal and Congress is not doing anything about it, might as well go with it. So you can make an entire speech as to why you don't want to be a bystander, right? I mean, if an action is illegal, you condemn it as such. You don't just say, well, clearly we've not been able to figure out a way to stop President Obama, so we're just going to go with it. No, don't roll with it. But the other thing I would encourage you to do is, I'm going to post the War Powers Resolution as part of the link. Look at the definition of an airstrike. Because, it comes from air, but like these days, it's not necessarily a drone strike. So you cannot just run a generic drone strikes, kill people, Hydra effect kind of stuff. But I think the bigger question is, what is ISIS, right? So, as we talked about, I don't know if you guys saw, but last year on Nationals, ISIS has just come around, and I stood up and argued, because it was a bill about banning weapons to Iraq, right? I stood up and argued that ISIS is not that bad. It's just a bunch of Sunnis coming together because the Shiites have oppressed them for so long in Iraq and in Syria. So there's and like I was like, people are just using the terrorist rhetoric like they always do, misunderstanding the core of the issue. So yes, I guess in a way, I kind of said that ISIS is like a political revolutionary force that we should respect as such. But at the time, we didn't have as much information as we have now. But the point still remains, in the sense that it's complicated, because even if you kill members of ISIS, culturally speaking, Sunnis would get really pissed off, because ISIS has been the only organization that has helped them to fight against these suppressive Shiites. So in both Iraq and Syria, the Shiites are the minority, oppressed the Sunni majority, and that's pretty problematic. So even if we were to kill all these people in the ISIS kill list, right? More would pop up again. The usual Hydra effect stuff. It would actually, and that would be the origin of counterinsurgency. Now, I'm not saying we should not fight ISIS, because I do think they're problematic. they're a radical extremist group that if they get a hold of any leverage, they're gonna like screw up like world peace. But part of the problem is cultural, where just by killing people, you don't resolve the issue. The example that I give always is of the greatest revolutionary of all time, Jesus Christ. The fact that he got killed only magnified the power of his movement, and he took down one of the most powerful empires of all time. So, when there's a religious dimension to conflict, if you kill these people, they think either they're going to go to paradise or they just become martyrs. Now, it is my understanding that most of the people in Iraq and stuff don't really like ISIS because ISIS is kind of abusive. But regardless, like, it's just the approach can't. Before we kill people, basically, that's a speech that I would give. Before we kill people, let's figure out what happens afterwards. Because that happens with the United States all the time. It's the reason why we got into this mess in the first place. We killed Saddam Hussein, and then we failed to build a basic structure that would promote peace and stability within the region. So really, we made things even worse. So that's the speech that, like, you could give in negation. And the speech in affirmation is ISIS is just really, really, really problematic. And it's infiltrating all over North Africa and the Middle East, and we really need to do something. And drone strikes are the best thing ever because they're very precise. So you would make like a drone strike argument. They're very precise, and they're able to effectively like neutralize this threat. So then one of you guys sends up negations and runs drone strikes bad. Do bad stuff. And that's also, so yeah, you could like refute each other that way. The other thing is international law. Normally, drones or any airstrike is considered a violation of international law because you're violating the airspace of a country, and like attacking them. But then again, the United States is at war with ISIS, so you can answer back with that, and the UN allows for self-defense. But yeah, I mean, ISIS is just problematic. But it's what ISIS represents, which is the discontent of the Sunnis, that makes it even more tough to deal with. You really want to frame your speech addressing that. I think that's going to be what that differentiates your speech, is if you actually talk about why ISIS exists, and why not just saying let's kill terrorists. Because most people will run arguments like drone strikes are bad, drone strikes are good, terrorists are bad, terrorists are good. Nobody's going to talk about. Very few people are going to talk about ISIS. So honestly, like, it's a fascinating organization, and I will link you to the Wikipedia page. Don't worry, the government's not gonna come after me because I just looked up ISIS on the internet because I use DuckDuckGo. So, well, allegedly they're not supposed to be able to track me. It's interesting. Just read. I think everybody should just read the story, or read the page, and really figure out like how they stand on the issue. Because 95% of all suicide attacks are a response to foreign occupation, right? And that's why, 90%, 95% are anti-American. So, which is why we should avoid violence as much as possible unless we have a good understanding of the issue to begin with.